It is super important to stay on time and on budget when you are shooting a low-budget indie film. The key document to doing that is the shooting schedule. You need to know how to properly set up and manage your shooting schedule. If you want to be a successful indie filmmaker, you need to know a lot about not just the production of movies, but the business. We are going to tell you the truth and reality of what really happens in the indie film business. Okay, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about what we call script breakdown and creating a shooting schedule. So you have a script, you know what your movie is going to be about, you've got the script. Now what you've got to do is you've got to figure out how long it's going to take you to shoot the movie. So the way that happens is you're going to take the movie, and movies aren't shot in sequential order. Most movies, okay? Once in a while somebody is artistic, they shoot the movie from scene 1 through scene 80 or whatever sequentially, but it's not usually done that way. It's usually shot out of order for good reason, because it's not cost effective to shoot sequentially. Let's say, for instance, I'll give you an example. Let's say there's 5 scenes that take place in this boardroom, and they take place at different times in the movie. So say scene 5, scene 15, scene 25, scene 35, scene 45, right? So they're not sequential. It doesn't make sense for us to set up all the cameras, equipment, do everything like that, shoot scene 5, then rip it all down, go shoot scene 6 somewhere else, and then, 10 scenes later come back here to shoot scene 15 and set it all up again. So what you do is you basically schedule all those scenes, 5, 15, 25, 35, you schedule them all on the same shooting day, you set up your equipment, and you shoot them all back to back. And even though there may be different days in the script, and the scene is me talking, I just change my clothes. I rarely change my clothes, but in this movie I would change my clothes. And we change the lighting a little bit, make it look like a different day, but you're set up, you shoot it. The whole process of doing a script breakdown and a shooting schedule is to figure that out. Which scenes should be grouped together to make it super cost effective to shoot the movie properly. Here's how that happens, all right? The first thing that happens is you go basically through your script, you look at each scene separately, and you're gonna put them onto what we call a strip board, otherwise known as a shooting schedule. It's an Excel program. A strip is a row in an Excel spreadsheet, all right? And then you've got columns, all right? Now the strip boards used to be actually magnetic or Velcro boards where each scene would be a strip, and you could actually put the strip on the Velcro or the magnet and take it off and move it so you can put them. So imagine you have an 80 scene script, so you'd have 80 strips. Each scene is a strip. So now what you got to do is you got to sort those strips out to make it efficient and cost effective and logical to shoot the movie out of order. So let's go back to my example of, say, 5 scenes in this boardroom of me talking, and they're at different places. So there's 5 strips there. So we would take those 5 strips probably, this is a rudimentary example, and we would group them together and we'd say these scenes should all be shot on the same day, back to back, so all those strips would go together. And let's say it's the second shooting day. We decide, okay, we can book this location on day 2, whatever that happens to be, and the actors are available and everything like that. So on day 2, we're gonna see, scene 5, 15, 25, 35, 45. Now, it might not actually be in that order. It might be that we shoot scene 35 first, scene 25 second, scene 5 third. There's reasons why you would shoot certain things in certain orders. And that's for an AD and a director to decide what makes sense to shoot. And there's so many examples and reasons that I could get into the details. But the core thing is that you're gonna shoot those 5 scenes together. So how do you determine that? So what you do is you go through your script, and the first thing's called a breakdown, where you basically look at each scene separately and put them onto a strip. The information is, how long is the scene? Like how many pages of shooting or dialogue? And usually I break it down into quarter pages. Most of the people in the industry break it down to eighth of pages. So is it a page? Is it 2 pages? Is it page and a half or whatever? Then is it day or night? Where does it take place? What's sort of the description of the action? Who are the characters in the scene? Are there any special props or wardrobe or needs that we would have to identify that would make it unique? Any special equipment needs, that type of thing. So it's basically a breakdown of the information of what's going on in the scene and what's required to shoot the scene. That's what sort of goes on the strip. Obviously, I'm talking quickly because it's so detailed. There's so much to talk about here. But anyways, that's what goes on. So now we have an idea of what we need to do to shoot that scene. Now we can group like scenes together. I use an example based on location. So my primary sort of sorting criteria is, where is the scene going to take place? Because generally the most expensive thing in shooting a movie is moving equipment and doing what we call a unit move, picking up your crew and your equipment and moving it elsewhere. So if you can group locations together, that's the kind of the highest priority. But sometimes maybe you have a special piece of equipment, like a Steadicam that you can't afford. You can get it for one day, and maybe you have, 4 scenes that require Steadicam, but they're in 4 different locations. I mean, does it make sense to maybe shoot those on the same day based on an expensive piece of equipment and an operator as opposed to a location? These are decisions that you have to make. That's what creating a shooting schedule is all about. It's sort of prioritizing and deciding what makes the most sense based on the resources that you have. So ultimately, you're going to build this schedule. The reason the strips are either like in a digital format in an Excel spreadsheet, obviously you can move them easily. But the reason, when it was done manually is you can take them off a Velcro board or a magnetic board and move them, is because it's constantly changing. You're constantly reconfiguring and saying, maybe it makes more sense to shoot these scenes together. Maybe we should shoot these. Maybe we should shoot these on this day because this actor's available. Or maybe we should shoot these on this day because this location's available. So it's all this criteria and parameters that you build into deciding what makes the most sense. Now, once you've built it and you have sort of, like, say, the first draft of it, this is constantly changing, this shooting schedule, based on things that happen. That doesn't have to change if you're lucky, but things generally do happen. Like, for instance, a location will call you and say, hey, we told you that day, well, we can't do it anymore. You got to switch days. Or, that actor who was available, they're not available anyway that day. So now you got to switch things. So this is you're constantly juggling. Remember, this is low budget indie filmmaking, and you got to go with the flow. It's not like you're a studio with $100 million feature that says, hey, give us that location or else we're not coming there. We're not paying you the $200,000 we were told you were going to pay. In low budget indie filmmaking, you kind of have to go with the flow and adjust as problems arise. You got to come up with solutions. So you are constantly juggling this schedule. Once you have sort of the first draft of the schedule and you say, this looks good, this is going to work, that's the foundation for creating a budget. Because the most expensive thing in shooting a movie in terms of a budget is how many days you're going to shoot, which kind of makes sense because you have to have your whole crew there every single day. You have to have your actors. So let's say it costs you on a low budget indie feature, say $20,000 a day to shoot. There's a big difference between shooting 10 days for $200,000 and shooting 15 days for $300,000 at $20,000 a day. This is why it's so important to schedule properly so that you have sort of the foundation as to know how many days you're going to shoot, and it gives you sort of the framework to build a more accurate budget. And also, to book locations and book actors and actually plan everything. It's really hard to plan anything unless you know exactly when you're shooting and what you're shooting on certain days. So this strip board / shooting schedule is really the foundation of the planning of the whole shoot. Everything depends on this. Your budget, your locations, your actors, everything comes from this. So it's really important to do this well and as efficiently as you can in order to, shoot your film properly and on time and on budget. As I say, you're constantly juggling it. So it's really important to do this properly in order to, have the information at hand. Now, how do you do this? I like to do it on an Excel spreadsheet for various reasons. Number one, I'm really good on Excel. It can be Excel, it can be one of the other spreadsheet formats, Google Sheets or something like that. It doesn't really matter. That I use Excel. The reason I like Excel, it gives me a ton of flexibility. And especially if you're sort of high-level user on Excel, to be able to sort, to change, to pivot, to do all kinds of stuff that Excel allows you to do. So because I am juggling a lot of different priorities, actor availability, location availability, equipment availability, all these kind of stuff, and we're constantly moving things around, I have the ability to make very quick changes very accurately when I have it set up on an Excel format, just because I'm so comfortable with that. Some people are not as comfortable with Excel. So there are many, many stock programs, apps that do this for you. So, I can name a few. Studio Binder is a very popular one. Celtics, obviously Movie Magic is probably the biggest one. There's these stock apps that you can either get a free version of or a paid version of. And they have, one of the modules is scheduling. They often have other modules like script writing. You can actually write the script within that app, and then the script will automatically be converted into a shooting schedule. And then they have other things, budgets, call sheets, production reports, lots of stuff, communication between teams. So these apps are really, really sophisticated, well thought out, and work really well. And I highly encourage you to check them out. And probably a lot of you already use them. They're good. I used to use Studio Binder, and it's great. I love it. So Studio Binder people, if you're watching, I think it's a great app. I just can do more on an Excel spreadsheet because I have the ability to sort quicker and do more parameters and criteria. I tend to move really, really quickly when I'm on set, and I make very quick decisions. And having my spreadsheet in front of me and being able to juggle something involves making super, super quick decisions on the shooting schedule. So I'll give you one example, and I can't do that as quickly on an app. Maybe because I don't know how to use the apps as well, but in some cases, I don't think the apps can change all of that criteria as quickly as I'm able to do it on the spreadsheet that I set up. Plus, I put a lot more information into my spreadsheets than generally the apps allow me to do. So I encourage people who know how to use Excel to do it that way. And if not, find the right app that works for you. But let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. Very often on a low budget indie shoot, you're going to be on set and you're going to have a weather problem. Okay, you're shooting. It's supposed to be a nice day. You get there, it starts raining. What do? Do you cancel the shoot? Do you try to reschedule it? Do you put it in try to get an indoor location? I mean, you got to make a decision. Now remember, let's say you have 15 days of shooting that you've scheduled and you're going to lose a half a day because it starts raining. Are you going to try to reschedule? How are you going to reschedule? Because it costs money to reschedule because you got to hire your crew for another day and your actors and get another location. Do you have the ability to do that? Do you have access to more financing? Chances are you don't. I mean, on a big budget shoot, you're going to have it. You're going to phone the studio and say, hey, we need another day. They're going to say, hem and haw, but they're going to give you the money. On a low budget indie shoot, you're probably not going to get that money. So now you got to juggle. You got to go onto your shooting schedule and you got to say, okay, what could I do to use this other 4 or 5 hour span of time that I have? I've got my crew here. I've got this location. You got to have to look at your scenes and you're going to have to, and I've got these actors, and what can I do to rejuggle, reformat, to keep the show going so that I can get some productivity out of this afternoon that I would have otherwise had to cancel because I can't juggle. Having a good productive shooting schedule that you can manage can allow you to do a lot of juggling. So I could go on and I can say, hey, even though we were supposed to shoot, scene 15 and 22 3 days from now, I could probably rejig it because it's the same actors. I speak to the wardrobe. Do you have their wardrobe? Can we change it a little bit? Production design, can we make this look like this? Even though we're not in the right location, can we juggle a little bit, pull off what we need to do and make it happen? Do we want to do that? No, of course we don't want to do that. Does it change the movie? Yes, of course it changes the movie. But here's the trade-off. If you don't do that, you're not going to be able to finish your movie because you're not going to have enough money to reschedule for another shooting day. So that, a lot of directors say to me, Jeff, you can't do that. You can't change your scene on the fly. You don't have the right location. You're not prepared. Nobody's planned for it. And I say, it's either that or have no scene. And if you have no scene, can you finish your movie? We'll have to find more money. I say, no, you don't understand. You're a director, you never produced. Put on your producer's hat and you got to understand, you're not going to find any more money. We're tapped out. That's it. So we're going to have a movie that is 90% finished and we're missing 3 scenes because we got a rain shower that day and we couldn't juggle it. As I said, this is the truth and reality of what actually goes on. Is it good news? No, it's bad news. Do you want to do it? No, you don't want to do it, but you got to do it. You've got to be able to juggle. Otherwise, so many low-budget indie films don't get finished for that reason. I mean, I could tell you tons of other stories. Like, how about you have equipment failure? How about one of your actors gets sick and doesn't show up? I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And you need to be able to juggle quickly and make very quick changes and decisions. And the shooting schedule, I keep pointing at my computer because there's a shooting schedule open in front of me here. The shooting schedule is the master document that controls all that and kind of gives you the idea of what you can and can't do and, what things are even doable. So here's what I say to producers. You got to find a solution. Just assume there's always going to be problems. Let's not call them problems, challenges. That's what part of low budget indie filmmaking is. It's just trying to figure out solutions to your challenges. The trick is sometimes the solutions aren't obvious and sometimes they're very difficult to figure out, but you got to do it. All right. The trick is to find the best solution in the moment. Sometimes the best solution isn't even a good solution. It's a bad solution, but it's better than all the other choices. One of the choices being cancel and don't shoot, but maybe risk not finishing your movie. All right. So you got to make a decision based on the information you have at the moment and looking at your shooting schedule. What is the best solution to this challenge at this moment? Looking at the overall big picture of making your movie on time and on budget and finishing it. And that is why you have to be, it doesn't have to be you. It could be maybe your first AD. It could be your line producer, whoever is really, really good at sort of managing the shooting schedule. They need to be in on it. They need to move quickly. Then you got to prioritize and you got to say, what's important? What can we compromise? What can we do to solve this challenge and come up with a solution? And the document, the shooting schedule, is the place you're going to go. Everything's going to feed off of that. I mean, there could be other criteria, obviously, right? Depending on the situation. But for the most part, that's what this is all about. So setting up your shooting schedule the right way to start with and being able to maneuver it and change it and adjust it is the secret to staying on time and on budget on an indie shoot. And so I like to do it a certain way, obviously, all right? Just as I said before, I'm good with spreadsheets. And I'm a bit of a control freak, I admit that. I can handle a lot of balls in the air and I like to prioritize certain things in certain situations. So there might be a situation where I'll prioritize an actor. There might be a situation where I'll prioritize a location or a piece of equipment. Depends on the situation. But I need to have information in front of me quickly so that I can maneuver and manipulate super quickly. And that's why I do it on an Excel spreadsheet. Whatever you decide to do, just make sure as an indie filmmaker that you, number one, can juggle, can stay flexible, can deal with issues, and have the information at hand that you need. So whether you're doing it on, say, a stock program, which is fine, make sure you or somebody else around you on your team knows how to use that program really well and knows how to manipulate it or adjust it accordingly at the speed that you would need to do it. If you can do that, then you will be able to stay on time and on budget, which is the secret to finishing low budget indie films. It's also going to hopefully make your investors happy that you stayed on time and on budget. But the alternative is risk not finishing your movie. And I've said it before, I can't tell you, it's a heartbreaking shame how many low-budget indie films do not actually get finished because of this reason. Because people can't juggle and change and adjust in the moment. They panic, they lose a half a shooting day or whatever the case may be, and they never get it back. And they never get the money to get it back. And it's a shame because the film otherwise probably would have been great, but they just didn't have the ability to juggle. Again, I could go on and on and on about how to build a proper shooting schedule and how to do the script breakdown accurately, how to set it up so that you have complete control. There's tons and tons of details, but this podcast, we're not going to go into those details. You have to take a master class. I would have to put up all the documents and show you how we do things and that type of thing. But I think this was a good sort of overview of setting up a shooting schedule and the importance of doing it properly and being able to adjust it. So good luck. It's not that overwhelming. It sounds a bit overwhelming. Good luck. Have fun with it. I'm sure you're going to be great at it. I encourage all of my listeners to send me questions if they're curious about certain topics or they want more information on things that I've spoken about. So my email address is jdeverett@deverettmedia.com. It will be in the show notes, and feel free to send in your questions and we will hopefully be able to get to them and expand and give you the answers.